How to improve your communication. Now, it's a very good decision you've made to master the art of speaking concisely. If it's something you do daily, every single day, you might as well get good at it. So one of the ways you improve your communication. In fact, before we get into the idea of how to improve your communication, let's discuss why you should focus on improving your communication. Why go through the rigorous disciplines? Why submit yourself to the process of improving your communication? Majority do not see the benefits. They do not see how difficult it is communicating like the average guy. In fact, there are things that are ingraspable to my mind as a consequence of good communication. For instance, I was in a business meeting the other day, speaking to this very wealthy guy. We're just going back and forth, and I discussed how Apple has little to no innovation after Jobs died. Their glow up used to be national excitement, now is a combustion of changing various colors, and all we expect is a newer version of the iPhone, a newer version of the iPhone, a new color of the iPhone, a bigger Mac, a newer chip. So we got into the intricacies of how Jobs left Apple and his investment in the company next. We went back and forth on the various historical concepts of Apple. And while we were going back and forth, it led to something, which led to something, and we concluded a business deal. Now, that deal wouldn't have been possible if I was not confident, if I could not stand straight, talk in a very concise manner. The ability to project your thoughts in a very succinct way to the mind such that he can comprehend of the other person is a superpower. You know that saying, if you do easy things, your life becomes hard. If you do hard things, your life becomes easy. Exactly. If I walk up to a lady and I say hello, it doesn't cross my mind whether she would say no or I won't be charming. No, I understand very clearly women like novelty. And when I come as a gentleman, I say hello, extend for a handshake, and we can go back and forth. Now, I won't waste my time in engaging some lady I just met in a very long conversation. But within that few minutes of interaction, I'll be a very interesting person. From the use of words, she can discern I'm different. Whereas the average guy is fidgeting, he passes the location multiple times just to say hello. So you can see how that in and of itself creates a level of difficulty. I've said it countless times. Action produces results. Results determines the ultimate quality of your life. Now imagine getting a less partner, a lesser kind of person because you couldn't communicate effectively. And this is not limited to the business space. It trickles down to, or it's not limited to relationship. It trickles down to the business industry. The fact that you can pitch an idea in a very interesting, confident manner. Mind you, superiors do not just consider the validity of an idea, it's the confidence, the conviction in which you believe an idea would work. So when I started Landlord app and I pitched it to the investors, I convinced them, I truly believe it's going to be the next big thing. And yes, we are pushing the app. Pushing the app currently, it's in its XYZ phase. I cannot speak so much on Barwise, but you get the concept. So once you pitch it confidently, does that mean there's a bump in your salary or whatever system of reward you get? Does that mean your mother gets better healthcare? Does that mean every single person within your circumference is now influential as a consequence of one decision? Without further ado, let's get into the ways. So the first thing you can do to improve your communication, you guessed it right, practice. Wrong. If it's practice, you've been practicing for 40 years and yet you might be 3 times my age and you don't come close to my level. So you see, it's not practice, it's feedback, the ability to sit and analyze. Now this video, I would sit back and watch it 100 times. That's why I put in effort to make sure every single thing I put out there is the best, because I would have to suffer and watch if it's anything other than that. So feedback is one of it. Sit, analyze. And you might not be able to take feedback in a conversation. So the best thing you can do is to record yourself with the permission of the other person, that is, or in your free time, record a solo conversation, which leads to the next thing, journaling. How you write is how you speak. In the process of writing, you will discover the filler words, you will discover your low-level style of communication. And what I mean by low level is an unprofessional act, an unprofessional style of communicating. I saw the other day on the news how Trump declared that the US recognizes only two genders, male and female. The average guy would say, the US have only two genders, male and female. Now, ignore the stuttering and the projection of the absence of confidence. So let's sit and analyze as a professional. The US recognizes only two genders, or the US have only two genders. Which one sounds more professional? Exactly. So it's in the process of refining and journaling, you would see various ways to improve upon that concept. You would get rid of the filler words. I do not understand how humans communicate with that's because you peasants will do anything other than entertain your audience with silence. I don't want to get into something different, because silence in and of itself demonstrates higher status. You're not scared of the conversation being guided from you. Again, pivot back to my yesterday's teaching on mindsets, on purpose. I highlighted that subconscious mind, again, controls a huge percentile of your action. So the idea, the subconscious belief, if you keep quiet, the conversation will be guided out of you, forces to use filler words. So the filler words are an indicator I'm still talking. Just because I do not have words to express myself doesn't mean I'm done. But the individuals whom are most charismatic, the individuals you associate confidence with, are the ones who are able to relax and speak in cadence without the fear they are losing audience retention or someone would chip in. No. Understand, I don't want to make it very intermediate, but once you understand, in communicating, it's not more so speaking in cadence, but speaking in such a way that you signal to the other person you're not done. So for instance, you can see what I did there. I said in communicating, then I paused. You understand fundamentally, I'm not done. It is clear I am not done. Now it would be stupid for you to chip in and go, oh, no. In communicating, you expect, you draw, it draws you in. You want to hear what the next word would be. So when I say cut out the filler words, you do not cut things out. We live in a world of time and space, and according to the law of time and space, nothing should be empty. If a place is empty, there is no such thing as a vacuum in the universe. It's only a matter of time before something occupies. So is anything, including bad habits, you do not get rid of the bad habits. You replace the bad habits, a bad one, for a good one. The time you spend beating the shit out of your meat can be used to go to the gym, read a book, anything other than the previous action. So trying to stop would only make you revert back to the initial process. And you've tried to do it, and where has that led you? Right back to me. I'll tell you what to replace the filler words with. Silence. Silence. When you speak, instead of introducing the filler words in a time where you're trying to recollect your thoughts, pause. And if the conversation is so guided from you, then so be it. So be it. I would have asked for you to check the person and be like, I'm not done yet. But majority of you haven't ascended that height to communicate that level of confidence. So let's leave it for something else. So the first is feedback, not practice. Feedback, watching yourself back, looking for ways to improve upon that discourse. And please understand, there must be a reference, because without a reference, transformation cannot occur. If you're trying to be something, there must be a reference that I'm doing X, Y, Z to become X. Sometimes it might not be someone external. It might be a more superior version of yourself. But across the various examples, one term is consistent, which is there is a reference. So there must be a speaker whom you admire. Of course, there cannot be a superior version of yourself as a good communicator. Yes, you might see it in your mind, but to literally compare in terms of communication is something you might not be able to achieve without great effort. But you understand the point. Find a speaker you admire. Say the exact same things as him. It's not copying, it's learning. How does a chef become a good chef? By mimicking other people's recipes. Over time, once he's gotten the ability to cook, then he can reduce the lime, increase the ginger, tone down on something, increase, then he becomes an excellent chef. But trying to formulate your own recipe without the basic knowledge of cooking, you would make a mess out of yourself. That is the easiest way to giving up. That's the easiest way to failure. To try and do your own thing without the basic knowledge or the foundational concepts. It's like trying to be a good engineer, trying to build a machine that cools the air without understanding the rudiments of air conditioning. Again, I'm not trying to discourage you from aspiring bigger. No, that's far from it. But you must understand the rudimentary concepts before you move to the next thing. Because if you try to bootstrap, it's most likely you crash, because the knowledge that should act as shoulder of giant of which you stand upon doesn't exist. So understand this concept, apply it to your life, and you'll be fine. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.